A summer morning is better than any morning. When the sun is shining, and there's not a cloud in the sky, it's better still. The earlier, the better. The youngest member of the Farrell family was up and doing. He had plans, and they had to be properly carried out. I have to go to Skerry's today, Ma. Mickey Byrne is going to the circus, and he wants me to go for company. This wasn't going to be easy. There were 7 girls in a row in the Farrell's house before this fella came along, and he was the apple of his mother's eye. She couldn't bear for him to be out of her sight. When he got a job with Tom Larkin, she found many a reason to pass by whatever field he was in. If he was playing a game of cricket or football, she'd be there on the line, and woe betide anyone who tackled him or slighted him. He had a dog's life. Result? He'd never been to Skerry's in his life. The Knoll, yes. The Mullen, yes. Ballybockle and Garstown, yes. Drogheda for boots and clothes. But that was it. No, you're not. Skerry's, is it? That's a horrid place. Everything you have would be stolen. And I told you before, don't be knocking about with that Mickey Byrne. He's only a pup. No, he's not, Ma. He's all right. Sure, I'm nearly 16 years of age. I'll be grand in Skerry's. Them circuses are wrong. Father Sweetman was saying the other Sunday they were occasions of sin. I'm sure they'd kidnap young lads and bring them out foreign. No, young Farrell, you're not going. Don't call me that feckin' first name, Ma. I will. You're my special man and you have a special name. This lad would give us 2 ears to be called Johnny or Jem or Charlie, but not that bloody title. Look, I'm going, Ma. We'll be there in no time on the bikes. We'll be back early. You don't know the way, and it's uphill all the way, and all the way back too. The first thing they'll do is steal your good bike. I've no money to be buying you new ones, and the old grub you get over there poison you. I'll lock up the bike, Ma. I've my own money now to buy what I want. Sure, you could give me a bit of a sandwich to bring with me. I won't have to buy grub. Mrs. Farrell knew she was beaten, but she wasn't happy. She wouldn't be content until he was back under the thatch. She wrapped up a fairly hearty heel of brown bread. Wouldn't do to have him enjoying himself, and gave him about 6 yards of a chain and a padlock for the bike. One more try. It'll be raining in no time. That bright morning is a very bad sign. Not at all, says he. I'll be grand. If Mrs. Farrell only knew, Mickey Byrne wasn't going at all. This was a solo run and a try for independence. So at 12 o'clock, away he went, bit lopsided on the bike with the weight of the chain, but grinning like a dog. This was the life. The Knoll never looked so well as he shot through it and took the Balbriggan Road past the big house at Reynoldstown. Given its speed, it wasn't uphill at all. He turned at Dollahasey, the home of the Caseys, and through the Mat and Bow Hill. He'd done serious research on the best route he could take. At Balrothery he headed up towards the Black Hills. From there he could see Skerry sprawled out in front of him with its islands and beaches. It was like everything he had ever imagined. A bit of caution must have trickled down from the mother, because when he was about 1.5 miles from the town he took to the fields and chained the back wheel of the bike to a hardy ash tree and took to his feet. Just before he hit the railway tunnel he tried the lunch. It was a brown heel about the shape of a hatchet and not much softer. So he gave it to a dog he met. The dog went off and buried it in the hope it might get tender. Skerry's on a sunny summer day in the 1950s, with a circus in town. It was packed. It was Las Vegas. It was Monte Carlo. It was Rio. Young Farrell was beside himself. He pushed through the crowds, slapping his pockets to make sure the pickpockets his mother had warned him about didn't dip him. At every turn there was something new. There were 3-card trick men. There was a strong man. There were shops and stalls. A bit of lunch might be in order now. A few oranges, bag or 2 of chips, 4 tomatoes, bottle of red lemonade, bottle of Sidona. There was never hunger in Farrell's house, but the fare was fairly plain. This was gourmet style. Having eaten and drank and seen the sights at his leisure, young Farrell parted with the tanner for his circus ticket and found himself a seat on a plank at the back of the crowd with his head stuck to the canvas and settled in for some serious entertainment. Live music, trumpets of all sorts, a bundle of white ponies doing their stuff in the ring. He couldn't wait for tigers and trapezes and girls in tights. Now, the digestive system is a very complex process. Our man had a good one. His mother was convinced he was delicate, but he was delicate the way a goat is. No problem with brown bread and porridge and cabbage and bacon, or an odd chop, apple tart, buttermilk, bring it on. But introduce half a dozen oranges, a sack of chips, tomatoes, a bottle of lemonade, a bottle of Sidona, that is a problem. He knew he had to go. Down through the crowd like an east wind, out through the flap, people everywhere, no toilets, not as much as a bush to reverse into. What the feck? Round the tent, still people, the belly swelled out like a bucket. Tripping over ropes and enclosures, he found himself in with Princess Penelope's 19 performing poodles. Not a bit nice were they. They coursed him and hunted him till they pinned him against a big old lion's wagon. They concentrated on one of his boots, which they tore off and ate. The lion had a look at him, but nature took its course. It had to happen. Farrell got a hand to his braces, but too late. And when the lion heard the delicate sound of the young man exploding into his carded eyes, he went and hid under his bit of straw. Now, what was going to happen? Nothing in his life so far had prepared him for this. Marooned 12 miles from home, a mile and a half from his bike, destroyed, disgraced, with only one boot. Only hope, take to the gardens and back lanes. If anyone saw him, he'd just have to kill himself. He emerged out through the tunnel. Only comfort was it started to rain, and rain it did. Eventually, after losing his way several times, he landed back to his bike storage, good old chain. The back wheel was still firmly locked to the tree. Only thing, the rest of the bloody bike was gone. Ah, Ma, you're always feckin' right. He found a stream and set out to clean himself up as well as possible. Not an easy task, and then walk across country to home and hearth. A bad, bad day to be a young Farrell. Hours and hours chased by cattle, torn by briars, straying from his route, stuck in bogs, still suffering aftershocks from the fruit and chips. He was close to exhaustion when he came into familiar country. Mickey Byrne thought he was having hallucinations. Almost dark in the lashing rain. A drowned, miserable rat, one boot, 2/3 of a trousers, lugging a bicycle wheel and 20 foot of a chain, scraped, scratched, filthy, stinking. But he was home, and he wasn't up for travelling too far in the future. Only one compensation. From that day his hated name disappeared, and ever after, till his dying day, he was known as Boot Farrell.